Hello everyone and welcome to the Gunpla Network. I'm the Spicer and today's look at Gundam SEED Eclipse is brought to you by Canadian Gundam. Canadian Gundam is your one-stop shop for all your Gunpla and Plamo needs here in North America. When you're checking out their catalog and placing your order, don't forget to use the promo code Gunpla Network to save 10% off. Today we'll be taking a look at the newly announced Gundam SEED Eclipse manga series that'll be releasing in Japan in July of this year. This marks only one part of a new initiative to expand the Cosmic Era and is the first new manga series for the Cosmic Era since 2015's Gundam SEED Astray Princess of the Sky. While we have a little backstory that we'll cover in a moment, I wanted to start with the minds behind the work to help give us an idea of what we may see. Starting first with the story, we have SOW or SOW of Beeblebub, Siren Another Call, and Combat Baker and Tomton Waitress fame. While I am super unfamiliar with all of those works, what I've been able to glean from the My Anime List pages is they all look to be fairly goofy, lighthearted stories with some pretty intense action, especially Siren looks more serious. This would fit a pretty standard Gundam story, especially for the Astray mangas. I mean, it's not technically part of the Astray manga, but it is another manga outside of it that technically has some similarities, I guess, in a way. But generally speaking, we don't know anything about the story other than, like I said, a little bit that we'll cover, but it's really just background information. We don't really know what's going to be happening, so I'm interested to see where this goes. I think this is someone who's pretty skilled in writing stories and has done a fair amount of it, so fingers crossed it turns out to be pretty good, or at least pretty standard fare for Gundam, and that's kind of where I'm thinking it's gonna go. Now, the visuals, on the other hand, kind of give me pause and make me think it might be slightly more serious. In terms of those visuals, aside from mechanical design, we have Atsushi Soga drawing the world of Gundam Eclipse. We've seen some character designs giving us a little glimpse into the style of the work, and it gives me a lot of Double O vibes, and particularly a lot of the side stories of Double O. The character designs kind of give me that vibe, just being brought into the Cosmic Era, which isn't bad, it's just those look more serious. It's harder to have a serious looking character in a goofy situation, but the main character does kind of give me some low vibes too, so it's hard to say. While Soga is rather accomplished in terms of being an animator and an animation director, I wasn't actually able to track down any previous manga they've worked on, so I don't know if they have, or if this is going to be like a digital manga thing, or how this is going to work, but I thought that was kind of interesting that they're bringing in an animator to do the visuals for the manga, so maybe it'll be like a motion comic, I don't know. We don't really have any information other than it's a manga, so we'll see. But that being said, Soga has worked on properties like Fullmetal Alchemist, Fairy Tail, and Eden of the East, so all from a visual standpoint, very good looking things, and they've worked in a lot of roles in animation: key animator, animation director, even episode director for some, and they've got a laundry list of stuff they've done. So if you're curious to see what other visual styles they've played with or animation they've worked with, you can check their page out over on My Anime List because it's extensive. Now lastly, for mechanical design, we have none other than Junichi Akitsu, who also goes by Beecraft. That's probably what a lot of the Gundam world will know them by. By far, absolutely the most notable of the three in the Gundam world. Beecraft has worked on almost all of Gundam SEED, including pretty much all of the Astray mangas, Code Geass R1 and R2, and Cross-Ang, the series that Gundam SEED director Mitsuo Fukuda would go on to create after his time with Gundam. With the Eclipse Gundam looking really different than what we've seen in the Cosmic Era and so far, at least in terms of animation, it's important that we look at Beecraft's other works to kind of get an idea of where it may be coming from. Aside from nearly all of the Astray manga that gets a lot closer visually to the Eclipse Gundam, if we look at things like Cross-Ang, and I think the Vilcris is what it's called, the main suit, if you will, of that series, it has a lot of similarities between the Freedom and the Eclipse, which really kind of has like an evolution of the Freedom in a way, but it doesn't look like the Freedom at all. So it is interesting to see a lot of the smoother curves maybe come from something like the Blitz Gundam, since this does adopt the Mirage Colloid, so maybe this is some kind of lineage to that, but we don't really know. It gives us some interesting visuals. It is vastly different and a lot more pointy, which is a lot closer to Cross-Ang, so I think this is a combination of some in-lore stuff that'll probably be pulled later on in the story, as well as just the actual mechanical designers' progression in their career. Now, as we speak at length about the interesting visual design of the Eclipse, it's also important that we talk about the story that brings it to life. Gundam SEED Eclipse is going to be taking place in Cosmic Era Year 72, so between Gundam SEED and Gundam SEED Destiny. Well, this period is pretty peaceful, at least in animation. It's known as the period of peace on thin ice. With continued mounting tensions between the Alliance and the plants, we're actually going to be joining the Orb Disaster Relief Team, or the ODR, a covert operations division within Orb, and the team specifically that we'll be following is made up of 17-year-old natural pilot Tatsumi Hori, 18-year-old coordinator pilot, Kin Nolan Seuss, and 19-year-old commander Miyabi Otokyo. While we're unsure as to what machine Kin will pilot, it's kind of, at least I'm assuming, it'll be the second Eclipse Gundam. Well, we don't have any images or information as to what that may look like. The machine will probably have at least a different color scheme, if not a totally different function. But the website does officially state that 2 units exist, so we can generally assume they'll be piloting the Eclipse Gundams, if you will. Since Tatsumi is listed first, we can kind of posit that he'll be piloting the Eclipse Gundam that we've seen. And at least this particular unit, like I said, we don't have any information on the second unit. Maybe they're identical, maybe they're not. But at least the one that we've been shown features a transformation gimmick for a really sharp-looking fighter craft, and then Mirage Colloid, which is reminiscent of the Blitz Gundam, which makes it perfect for a covert ops unit. Now, one last thing I want to point out, since that's all the story we have to cover, this is really quite unprecedented, is Bandai's already announced the Master Grade Eclipse Gundam for release this year in August. Well, Master Grade releases have been slow the last couple of years, with 2020 only having 3 and this year only having 5 announced so far. It is really interesting that the manga's main Gundam is getting a release after only like a month of the manga coming out, which is ridiculous. Like, the red and blue frames had to wait years between either their manga release or even like the little mini episode animations they had with Stargazer. It was still like years between both, so kind of strange, but also those 2 years, I believe the red frame was 2010 and the blue frame was 2009. Both of those years had 12 different Master Grades come out, so it's definitely probably just to help fill the gap, but this isn't something they would have just kind of pulled out of their hat. They've been planning this. There's some engineering that has to go into something with a fairly complex transformation gimmick, so we'll see, but it is pretty crazy that this is coming out this quickly, and I'm really hoping that Bandai kind of makes a tradition of that, so we don't have to wait years between releases of any kind of content and model kits. But that has been all we've got to cover here on Gundam SEED Eclipse. In those comments down below, let me know if there's anything I missed and what you're excited about for the series. I think the Eclipse Gundam looks really cool, and the staff behind it all seem really solid. That has been it. In the comments down below, like I said, leave me some love, leave a like on this video, and of course check out our other content here on the Gunpla network. As always, friends, stay safe, keep on building, and keep on reading.